That.
Welcome. I'm glad I got a joke out before we even started. Okay, audience, remember Jeselle? She was just on not too long ago with her mama, and we talked a lot about the mother-daughter dynamic, which it's so funny to take a step back because one of the things that I've heard from mediums on my shows and then a medium I saw in my personal life before was how instrumental my daughter is in my own healing and the generational healing that I'm creating, and that she
Mhm.
is so much a part of that. And now I get to watch this exact same thing play out with you, and I love it so much. So obviously we will cover some of the mother-daughter dynamic and just life in general, but I know that right now you really have a heart for speaking about postpartum anxiety, depression, just the general experience of postpartum. It's something I can really relate to. Not to make it all about me, but everything's about me. So one of the things I think that calls to my spirit about postpartum issues is that I didn't have that with my first because I lived in a really well insulated bubble where there wasn't a lot of external stress. My mom had just died while I was pregnant with him, and I was just very focused on I was really good at denial too at that time. So I was just really it was great. I think because of that, I went into the experience with my second, Jake, with a lot of expectations that weren't met, and I can look back now and see how betrayed I felt by the experience, but we almost lost him in birth. Um, he was induced 2 weeks early because I had really bad gestational diabetes, but he still got stuck there at the end, and this was after 2 hours of pushing and whatever, and they kinda had to work on him a little bit. Like, we were losing fetal tones in labor, and then they kinda had to work on him a little bit. It wasn't like he died and had to be resuscitated, but it was like it took him a little bit to breathe that, right away. And I was completely fucking traumatized by the entire experience. For one, the doctor was a dick. I felt very unheard by the people around me that it was so scary, and I felt so betrayed by the experience and I didn't have words for it. So that plus he fucking didn't sleep. Like he was asleep during the day, up all night kind of guy. And
Mhm.
that never changed about him. And he I had another child, thankfully God I had fertility issues to get pregnant with him. So thankfully, because they were 4.5 years apart, it made having a second child a little easier. But that's when postpartum depression really hit for me and anxiety. And I had never felt the way I felt then. And I can see now too how disconnected from my body I had become, even more so than what I had been before, which I disconnected from my body in childhood. So anyway, all that to say, I really have a heart for the things that we as women experience postpartum.
Oh, yeah.
And also I think postpartum has the same impact as grief in that it really kind of highlights what was already there. So when I thought about you last night and this morning, that's really what came up for me was that in so many ways you're going through a very similar process that I am. We're in a very new space and our nervous systems are going, "Hey, let me show you all the ways that I was already a little fucked up."
Yeah. Well, so I had struggled to get pregnant for several years. I've been with my husband for 11 years, and it's taken us 11 years to have a baby. I did have a miscarry prior to her. And that, of course, really messed with the mind. And so all through my pregnancy, I was extremely on edge. Not only that, but I was going through a lot of generational trauma healing. And, so I was, going to the point where I mentally in my mind, full blown going, am I going to be a good mom? Am I going to do this right? Am I going to turn out and pass down the traumas that my mom passed down to me? Am I going to be doing this? And then I had gestational diabetes
Mm,
on top of that. And then I had the fear of preeclampsia.
mm.
We learned that it is passed down hereditary. My mom had preeclampsia. And it's not with every pregnancy. You can have preeclampsia with one pregnancy and not have it with the second one.
Right.
Um, So I had a very rough pregnancy. And when it came to, I had her at 37 weeks and a few days. And with her, it was, I really don't want to do this. I really want to push through it. But I was borderline preeclampsia. It was, okay, we were really, really early stages. Before this gets worse, we need to go ahead and do this. And they were worried that I was going to be C-sectioned. And I had that going through my mind because I'm going, how am I going to get anything done if I have a C-section? How am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to take care of my baby? And so and I am a person who goes full on in the mind, and I just go worst case scenario all the way through. And
Mhm.
I play it play by play. It doesn't matter. I have all the scenarios figured out, how I'm going to handle it, how I'm going to deal with it, even if it never happens. But I stress myself out to that point. And so the labor wasn't so bad. I pushed through it. It took me 3 days to go into to finally be dilated enough to have to go, finally pop my water and everything. And but the bed, laying in the same bed, not allowed to get up for several hours, for days actually, and I mean days, was excruciating. I broke down. So I went in Saturday like afternoon, night, and they said this is what we're gonna do. I was able to get up and go to the bathroom, you know. Um, Actually no, I lied. I wasn't. I was put on magnesium. And so I
Mm.
had, yeah, so it was catheter. And I sat there and I wasn't allowed to get up and go to the bathroom. I was hot and I was uncomfortable and I wanted to move and I shift and it's just I'm miserable. I want to go to the bathroom. I want to walk around. I want to have freedom, but you can't. And so finally, um, I think it was Sunday night. It's been 24 hours and I just lost it. I started crying. And my husband's sitting there going, I don't know what to do. It's okay. You're not doing that. You're like, you're okay. You're okay. Told the nurse, I was like, I feel disgusting because can't get up and go to the bathroom. I can't go and have a shower. And, I just feel gross. You have people peeking up underneath you. You have all these
Yeah.
things happening. So you feel really gross. And then it's the nurse, she was, bless her heart, she was the sweetest. And she came in and she gave me a little wet bath and, helped me out, made me feel a little bit better about myself. And she looked at me, she goes, girl, if you wanted to cry, you should have called me in here. I would have cried with you. She was the sweetest. She
Oh.
made me feel a lot better. And, I just told her, I was like, I just feel like this is really hard. This is really hard mentally.
Mhm.
I I don't have anything. And I'm have to prepare to be a mom
Yeah.
whatever. And, and I'm like, am I ready to be a mom? And so finally, the nurses were really great. They really helped me through the mental processes in the hospital. I had to go through each stage of these processes. I'm ready to be a mom. I'm scared to be a mom. I'm scared that I'm not going to do this right. I'm scared that this is going to happen. Okay, I'm ready to do this. Like, it was a teeter-totter. It did not matter. And so finally, it all happened. I ended up, getting through it without going through a C-section. And I had the same situation where she wasn't breathing, she wasn't crying right away, and it scared me. And my husband's sitting there asking questions, and he's freaking out too. And I'm like, just let them do their job. Just let them do their job. And I'm trying to
Mhm.
not freak out too because I know that they're supposed to be screaming when they come out. And so hearing her cry finally, I was that relief hit. And I was like, she's alive. She's great. Because I spent 9 months going, is my child going to make it to this
Yeah.
world? Is she going to be earthbound finally? And I did, and that has all the way until they're born.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, pregnancy
and
after loss is insane.
it really is, and it is so hard. Um, and then you beat yourself up. You
Mhm.
go into this whole, I did this wrong, I didn't do this right.
Mhm.
And, I got very, very, very lucky with her not having any problems with her blood sugar, because I had gestational diabetes. I got very lucky with her not having to go to the NICU, because I would have lost my mind. I was very much, she stays in my room. She doesn't go anywhere. You do all your testing here in this room. Like, I was very much on edge. I did not sleep the entire time I was in the hospital. I slept maybe 30 minutes at a time,
Mhm.
here and there. The most I slept was maybe 2 hours, and that was right after I gave birth, because
Yes.
just I was exhausted. And
I
that was it.
know, like, we set ourselves up and the hospital sets us up for failure coming home, having had no sleep the entire time you're there, like, they come and take the trash out, check
Yes.
your blood pressure, like, I remember getting really pissed about it.
Okay, so the blood pressure, because I was preeclampsia, the blood pressure cuffs. Both of my arms were so fucking bruised.
I
I
bet.
had bruises up and down my arms. I looked like somebody just beat the shit out of me when I left the
Mhm.
hospital. And, I had two IVs, and they were being tugged every which way. And so, of course, those are sore, and they've been in me since Saturday, and it's now Thursday. And so I'm like, I was miserable the entire time. Like, the birth itself was fine, but before and after, I was
Yes.
absolutely miserable. And it put me in such a bad mental state with all
Yes.
of it, because here I am, I'm exhausted. I'm crying because I'm so exhausted. And then I'm going, how am I supposed to go home and take care of a newborn who needs me? Nobody was judging me, or they're telling me don't beat yourself up. And I was telling myself not to beat myself up, but I wasn't producing. And so I was starting to beat myself up, and I was like, don't, don't. And then, I had to give her the formula. I didn't want to put her on formula right away. And there was all these things that come into play, and it doesn't matter if you're mentally prepared for that or not, you still immediately go to that no matter what. I started bawling afterwards because they finally moved me to a postpartum room. And that was 2 days after I gave birth, because I had to be on magnesium after giving birth. And then
Mm.
after that, they were like, "Oh, we don't have a room open, so you're gonna have to stay in here." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I slept on the couch
Oh,
because it was so I was so uncomfortable. And even then, I think I was having I think I was having mini seizures afterwards, because I was started falling asleep on the couch, and I couldn't get myself to fully fall asleep. And then I started to I would like shiver, and then I bit the whole side of my tongue and cheek,
mm.
and it was so sore. Like, you could see the giant bump on my tongue from biting it so hard, because I jolted and I bit my tongue, and I just slightly remember, and I think that was a mini seizure, and I just had no idea how to
Wow.
describe it. And my husband's asleep, and there was no nurses in the room, so it was just, okay, this happened type situation. And I kind of watched it, but I could not get myself to mentally fall asleep. I could somewhat physically, but mentally I could not. I kept waking up and looking at the baby, making sure she
Mhm.
was breathing and alive. And I would start to fall back to sleep. And then I would wake up and make sure she's okay. She'd start to move around. I was like, okay, you're so on edge as a first time mom. You are scared that something's going to happen to her while
Mhm.
in the hospital. You're immediately trying to adjust, and these hormones up and down. They just drop
Oh, yeah.
tremendously.
Well, and your body has just
And
gone through a major trauma.
it did. Your womb and everything. You have a gaping hole inside you that takes
Yeah.
up to 2 years to heal. And
Yes.
so I just remember just laying there, and then you have the day next hours, you have people coming in and out of your room. So you don't even get to fucking rest, because
Right.
they're going, You okay, you need to go home and do this kind of physical therapy. Okay, we're gonna check your blood pressure. Okay, we're gonna do this. And you're like, can you leave me the fuck alone?
Mhm.
Like, I want to do not
Yes.
disturb sign on my door. And every time I started to fall asleep, somebody came into the room, and I was like, I give up. And when I did finally go to the postpartum room, well, here's the thing: my daughter had to be under the blue light because she was slightly jaundiced, and so she had to be under the blue light for several hours. We got very, very lucky with how she was with it. She never fussed, she never cried, she never had any problems with it. I just always was worried because she has no clothes on, just a diaper, and it's cold in these hospital rooms. And I'm like, is she cold? Like, I'm constantly making sure I'm calling the nurses in to come in and check her temperature because the last thing I need is for her to get cold. And I that was when I finally called my best friend because my husband needed to go to work. And at the same time, I didn't want him to leave the hospital room. I didn't want
Oh
I
god, I
bawled, I
remember
cried.
that.
I didn't want him to leave me. I was like, I don't want you to leave. And I've
Well,
cried.
I
So
was
he
really
had
like, "What the fuck am I gonna do with this baby? I can't." And this is my second
I
fucking
know.
kid, and I literally was like, "I can't be alone with him." When my husband at the time had to take our oldest, like, he was draw he a grandparent he had stayed with for a couple nights came, let him meet Jake, whatever, and then my husband had to take him to the next person he was staying with, and I was like, "Friend, can you come sit with me while he gone? Because I can't be alone with this baby. What if he needs something? I mean, I don't even know I'm supposed to take care of him? What?"
Right? Well, and I wanted to try to get some sleep, but I was scared to sleep because I wanted somebody
Yes.
to keep an eye on her to make sure she was okay, to make sure that, so I did have a friend come up and stay with me while my husband came home and slept because he was trying to stay up and help and sleep and, take care of her
Right.
to make sure I was getting the rest I needed because here I am, I'm bleeding, I'm having all these complications. Like we said, we just went through major trauma.
Mhm.
And, and then you're expected to take care of a newborn, get up and change their diaper, get up and feed them. You're supposed to constantly get up and down. Your body cannot handle that. It is so
Right.
difficult. And especially when you've been on bed and sitting in the bed for 5 days.
Right.
So we did all that and everything, and by the time it was time for me to come home, and let me also mention, I was taking drugs that are supposed to knock you on your ass and help you sleep. Yeah, no, they were just consistently building up in my system. So
Mhm.
I'm tired. I'm getting
Yeah, you're
delusional
fucking
tired.
done.
Yeah, and the food's fucking horrible, and I'm hungry and I want real food. I'm just going through it. And so finally, when it comes to me coming home, they didn't want to release me. My doctor and I discussed my blood pressure. My lower number was still slightly elevated, and he goes, "You haven't had a seizure yet." The only reason why I stayed an extra night was because, or stayed admitted into hospital for an extra night was because I wanted to be with my baby, and just in case I had another one of those little seizure like moments, and I just wanted to make sure I was okay. And I didn't. And him and I talked, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna release you for the day. The baby should be released later, depending on her numbers and all that." I was like, "Okay." And I waited and waited, and I was like, "Can you guys get this IV out of my arm? I'm having allergic reactions to the adhesive. I have, all over my belly, all over my arms. I'm just tore up."
Mhm. You're
And
ready
so
for
then
a
he,
shower? Girl, I fucking know.
oh yeah, and I'm getting bitchy. I'm getting mean. I'm trying to
Yes,
not. And
yes.
I'm just like, I'm ready to go. And so finally, we get told the baby's good to go home. So we're both being, released, thank God. Well, they want to come and check my blood pressure one more time. And I just got done packing up the room. We just got done getting the baby
And you're
dressed.
all of the things that you just said. You've been waiting, you're tired, you're irritable, you're fucking hungry, you wanna shower,
Yep.
you're up
I
in
want to be
arms,
in
so
my
your blood
fucking bed.
pressure's high.
Yep, my blood pressure was high. And the doctor wanted me to stay another fucking night. And my husband, I'm bawling. I'm crying so fucking hard. He just pulled the car around so we can get loaded up. And he just was like, no. no, we're going home. They need to go home. It's time to go home. And so I had to sign a paper stating I'm, refusing doctor's orders and all this. I was just done. I was like, I cannot do this. And now I have that fear embedded in me going, if I have another pregnancy, is that going to happen to me again? Is that going to be the same thing all over again? Because this horrible experience, all other than getting to meet my baby.
Right, right. No, we had
Yeah.
that same thing with Charlie. So Charlie's the only one that had issues with her blood sugar after birth because of the gestational diabetes. She had some other things too, but so she did go to the NICU, and my discharge experience with her looked very similar. She was still in the NICU, but she was supposed to be being released. I was supposed to be being released. They made me fucking this is the she was the only kid I had at this hospital, and they made me fucking watch this video from like literally the 1980s, in essence about how to take care of a child. And I was fucking livid because this is my third kid. I feel defensive, like I've done something that makes you feel like I need this video.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And I am like, they think I'm white trash, like, there's just so many things happening, and then it's just taking all day, and I've already, sent Brian down to the car, so he's loaded everything up, so the baby has now shit in her diaper, and because we finally get her back, but we've been waiting forever, so all the stuff's down there. I'm bleeding everywhere. At one point before they brought me the baby, they finally came in to give me, like, prescriptions and whatever, and she's like, "Oh, you're crying," and I was crying because I was so fucking pissed, and I was like, "You don't wanna talk to me about that right now, I promise you that." I was like, "Yeah." But no, I totally get that. I wanna name a couple of things that you've said, though. Okay, so prior to birth, especially because of pregnancy after loss, we had 2 miscarriages before Charlie and a lot of fertility issues. But, so I get what that experience was like.
Mhm.
But, okay, so you were talking about catastrophic thinking, where your brain is going to every scenario. You're trying to figure out a plan for each scenario. So that's catastrophic thinking. So your brain and your nervous system are looking for control in any way possible
Yeah.
rather than just trust, safety within your body, trust that whatever happens, you're enough to deal with it. It's that preconceived notion that if I can look for every danger that's possibly going to come my way and find a solution to it, everything's fine. And that is learned from trauma. That is a trauma response.
Oh
And so
yeah. No,
you've come into your pregnancy with a history of trauma, and now you've got all this anxiety because you don't know what to do with the fact that your nervous system is railing. And then the postpartum stuff, you came into postpartum with a history of trauma, anxiety, depression, and you've just gone through this major traumatic experience within your body. You've had health complications, so I wanna name that. I feel like it's important to talk about the betrayal that you have felt from your body. So not only did trauma disconnect you from your body disconnected you from your body. You had a trauma response to the fact that your body wasn't working in the way that you expected it to or needed it to. You didn't feel safe. So not only have you separated from your body, that's what we're doing when we jump to our brain trying to look for danger and whatever
yeah.
from trauma and anxiety, but also now because it's betrayed you. And I want to name that because that was so much of what was stemming, like where my postpartum depression and anxiety stemmed from, because I recognized this didn't meet my expectations, but to feel so fucking awful because something didn't meet my expectations, I wasn't gonna say those words to somebody because I didn't know how much deeper it went, but I could recognize that. I thought it was just because I had built up my birth experience because, we'd be watching all those damn movies and shows and whatever, and those women who are
Yeah.
fucking delivering in their bathtubs at home. I never wanted a home birth, but, like, the just sweet little loving experience where it fucking goes from A to Z without complications, and I
Your
wanted
social
that.
media.
I really thought I was gonna get it, and so when that didn't happen, I thought that was the center, but it was really all of it. I was fucking betrayed by that whole experience. I was betrayed by my doctor who was treating me like a fucking imbecile because I can't get this baby out because they gave me a little too much epidural. I couldn't feel what I was pushing. And so there was so many fucking different problems. But I think all of these ways in which you have disconnected from your body is the real root of what's going on. And that's why I say postpartum really just highlights what was already there. You learned to disconnect from your body in childhood when you were experiencing trauma. Your mom was open about the fact that if I'll say it this way, maybe this isn't necessarily the right way to say it, but that there was physical abuse in your history. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, you've learned to
that's
disconnect
completely
from your
true.
body.
I have. Hey, that's actually 100% true. I have learned how to disconnect from my body, not only from the childhood abuse, but physical abuse, but also the sexual abuse that I have faced, on multiple accounts. And
Yep,
once you learn how to do it, your body and your mind automatically know how to do it, and it
automatically.
continues to do it. And it,
Yep.
you sometimes you're not even realizing it does it, and it's
Oh, it's autopilot. That's how
oh
subconscious
yeah.
programming works, is because when we're just going about our day and we're just doing, often our brain, without even realizing it, with no presence, no grounding, our autopilot is our subconscious. And if your subconscious has been programmed to not be in your body, that's going to be the natural instinct. I do want to say with some work, it you don't even have to think about staying present. It's not hard for me now to not be all up in my brain and be just very aware of what's happening right here and in my body and whatever. But that took work because automatically I'd just be like, yeah, and then another fucking thing, cause my shit was always fighting with someone, you know what I mean?
I understand that. Well, and I had to recognize that disconnect and when it was about to disconnect. And I'm almost 14 weeks postpartum, and it's hard. And I'm still learning my body. I'm almost 29 years old, and all these things have happened. I'm still learning my body and learning these things. Something that just happened to me on Saturday night. We went to go do this thing with my mom and my sister for their birthday and my sister's friends, and we're in the hotel room after doing our dance. It was basically a little dance ball thing.
Yeah.
We were laying in the bed, and all of a sudden, I'm just sitting there, chill, was on my phone, laughing, having a good time. And then my mom sat down. All of a sudden, I just got this shake. I felt so fucking cold. And I've been through this before, just thought I'm actually just cold. I just need to put on a jacket, get under the blanket, and get all warmed up. I'll be fine. My mom goes through these shivers. She calls them her pre-seizure shivers. And her and my sister have finally witnessed this for the first time. And they looked at me, and my mom's like, that looks like me before I go into seizure. That's when I'm in my shivers. And my sister's like, if not worse. Like my sister and they both were like, and I'm sitting there going, Is this what I think it is?" So I couldn't move to grab my sweater out my suitcase, so my sister grabbed it for me and I put it on, and I just had to focus on my breathing. I just focused on my breathing. I just rocked back and forth and like hugged myself with my sweater, and I was calming down and it was going away. And that was when I realized, oh shit, that's my nervous system going, hey bitch, you
Exactly. It's
overloaded me.
freaking the fuck out. I actually had something
Yeah.
similar happen a few days after Jake died, and I recognized this wasn't the first time I've gone through that either. And Jake had a weighted blanket, and for some reason I had it in my room, but I was like, oh, this is the nervous system response because it was like, just cold as fuck and just shivering. And I put it on me and and a regular blanket on it and just was breathing the exact same way and sending like love through my body and again
Mhm.
just like wrapped up. But yeah, that weighted blanket really helped. I had to do that for like 45 minutes before my body was like, okay, we're safe, it's fine. But yeah, it's absolutely your nervous system flipping the fuck out.
I never noticed it before because it's been a while since I went into full fledged like I did that night. And I just was like, it was a wake up call for me because I'm like, I haven't been dealing with this in the right way. I've been dealing with it like I was told. I've been dealing with it. And it's not my mind, it's not my actual mind, it's my subconscious being
Yes.
overloaded. And
Yes.
man, I can tell you right now, that subconscious mind is one hell of a back door. I don't want to
Girl, you're
open
telling me. I relate so much. Cause I mean, we're so fucking good. Listen, we didn't become the survivors that we are. We haven't been told our whole lives how fucking strong we are for no reason, right? Like, but I think what I'm hearing, like on a spirit level, what I hear from you, and I don't know if you're consciously like here yet, but is where I got whenever I was like, listen, I don't actually fucking wanna be strong anymore. I wanna be held, I wanna be soft, I wanna be nurtured. I don't wanna if strong means that I don't fucking need someone to take care of me and to learn how to take care of myself, I don't wanna be strong. I don't fucking want that. I want
it.
love from myself, from the people around me. I wanna feel cared for.
Yep. And to finally feel safe enough to allow yourself to be that, what I call the feminine era. Um,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what that's what it is to be the feminine era because if you look back, we took care of everybody else, but we had that one person to take care of us. And we
Mhm.
need that one person. And I mean, we're still taking care of us, but we need somebody outside of that to take care of us. I have that. And, I made sure I had that. I
Mhm.
watched my mom not have that my entire life. And
Yep.
so I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to have me a man that's actually going to take care of me. It's going to hug me and go, no, you need to be hugged. Or no, you
Yes.
need to sit your ass down and relax. Hold the baby. I'm
Yes.
going to do this. Having that has helped me tremendously, but it took me a long time to allow him to do that for me.
Well,
I'm
and
just
to
now
really,
allowing it.
really be able to give it to yourself too, because living in your
Hmm.
masculine means you're solution oriented, you're focused, you're driven, you're trying to set up a system. It's not about feelings. It's about getting shit done and getting
Hmm.
through and moving on. And I had to learn like that one of the reasons I wasn't receiving his acts of service as love, like, yes, I appreciated it, but it was like, that's a bare minimum for me, like,
Yeah.
I'll never relate to people who are like, "Yeah, I'm in a marriage where my spouse doesn't do shit for me," whatever. Because 'cause I'm like, "That's my need." Acts of service is like if I call you from another room listen, I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's true. If I call you from another room and be like, "Would you mind refilling my water?" The answer needs to be yes. It really does because I don't feel like doing it. And this is an act of service that means a great deal to me. And so, while yes, I do appreciate all of that, I didn't receive those things as love from him until I could give that to myself. Until
Yeah.
I was like, okay, okay, okay. I'm hearing that I need nurturing. I'm hearing that I need love. I'm hearing that I need TLC, just like a mama. I wanted that mommy feeling of like that I really never, I mean, when I was sick, my grandma was a pretty good caregiver. And that was the feeling. And even my mom was as fucked up as she always was. Like that was the one thing I could relate to in terms of motherhood. Like, when your baby's sick, you fucking smother them with love and affection. And that's what I was wanting. I was craving that so badly. And so I said, how can I give that to myself first? And that's what putting a weighted blanket on or a sweater or whatever and just being like, I fucking love you, man. You're safe. You're safe. You're safe. That's what allows us to get to the place where we go, hey, I receive your love because it's safe to do that.
You want to know what's insane is I had to teach myself that. My mom was loving and I know her own way and was caregiving, but because she was going through her own shit at the same time, my mom didn't cuddle me. My mom barely hugged me. I mean, I got hugs, but it
Yeah,
wasn't
mine are like that
often.
too. Yeah,
So
we
it
weren't
was
huggy people at all.
no, and I wanted to cuddle, but my mom was like, "Ew, no, that's not my thing." And that always I knew that always bugged me because I'm a cuddly person. And
Right.
so I had to teach myself that. And when I was able to allow myself, I'm teaching myself and going, no, I'm going to cuddle the shit out of my daughter. I'm going to love on her as much as I can because I can do that. And, my mom and I talk about it. She goes, no, you're doing everything right. Because I sit there and I doubt myself. I'm going, am I doing this right? Am I, she didn't smile at me for like a night after I got back from being gone. And I cried. I straight up cried because I thought she didn't love me anymore. And then I had to remind myself, with infants and a baby's love is unconditional. They don't know how any other thing other than to love you because you are their world. I have to teach myself and tell myself that it's
Mhm.
okay. She's going through her own phases where she might just give me that dirty look. That's just because it's natural for her.
Uh-huh.
But I have to consistently teach myself and tell myself that I'm not doing anything wrong. It's okay that you're not getting up and vacuuming the house. It's okay that you didn't get up and cook dinner. It's okay that laundry is still sitting in the washer and you didn't get a chance to move it over. I'm not the only one here.
Yep.
There is another person who can get up and do that. And that it's okay for it to be on him for a moment because you are still healing physically, mentally, hormonally, all these things.
Yes.
It's so hard to not be hard on yourself though, because I've
Mhm.
always have been hard on myself. And that was a generational trauma that was passed down from my mom.
Absolutely. Well, you
And
learn to get love and worth and value as a human. You had to earn it. You had to earn it by
mm-hmm,
being the good girl and by not getting in trouble and
doing what you're
by
supposed to.
doing. Yeah,
Mm,
and also this was probably my first little dipping my toes into some sort of feminism, but I was like, listen, I don't actually give a fuck if I'm a stay-at-home mom or not. That doesn't mean I have to take on every fucking task in this house.
yeah.
I never said I'm going to be your mother, I'm going to be your maid, I'm going to be this, that, or that by wanting to be home with my child. I
Mm-hmm.
just said I don't want to have an external caregiver for the baby. I didn't say I was going to be the one responsible. And I know people really balk at that. I say fuck the traditional systems of parenting and child raising because uh no one person should be responsible for every fucking thing in the house because they don't work outside of the home, because the work at home never fucking stops. And whether you
No, it
work
doesn't.
outside the home or you work inside the home, it's all like I know plenty of two two work working families, like where both partners work, and yet still the woman's the one coming home doing the cooking and the cleaning and the whatever, and I'm like,
Yep.
fuck that shit. Listen, I'm not judging your relationship, but I am saying check your worthiness shit, because if you knew how worthy and valuable you were as a human, you would not feel like it is your responsibility to do all that. And now listen, I'm a person who still has to work through like asking my children to be a part of the solution, because
Mm-hmm.
A, it really kind of is easier to just like be like, "Can you get the fuck out the house while I mop?" Things like that.
It
But
is.
like also I have a hard time asking for help, even though my logical conscious mind says it's not asking for help to say, pick up the fucking towel you just put on the floor. In my
You
heart,
walk on
in
the
my
floors.
subconscious, it feels like asking for help, because a good mom, Giselle, is supposed to just be able to do it all. That's what good moms do, because that's the ideal version that I created of good mom back in the day when I
Mhm.
kept saying, "I'll never fucking be this for my kid. Never. I'll never do this to my kid." And then, set yourself up for failure. But that's all perfectionism. And so I have to really work every day at being like, my worth and value as a human has nothing to do with how clean my house is. Nothing. And trust, it's not that clean. So thank God for that. Thank God. I was just
Mine's
picking up some
numerous
shit before
times.
we started recording. Like my bedroom, atrocious.
Oh yeah.
Atrocious.
No,
Atrocious.
nobody's allowed to walk in my room except for me. My
Me
husband.
too.
room was a mess. There's clothes
When my
everywhere. Are
sister
you
came
kidding
to
me?
help me clean, I was like, "You can help me clean in the front rooms of the house," and I have done very good at maintaining that since she came to help me. Every morning I try to, like, make sure because we have an open concept, so, like, the living room, kitchen are all together, and so I've been doing a really good job at making sure that the kitchen and the living room and the hallway and the hall bath are good. All the bedrooms are disgusting. And that's just gonna have to stay that way until I get the but I will say this, I'm getting more energy. So, like, I've been
Yeah.
like, "Okay, I'm gonna start just, like, little bits at a time getting my fucking room clean because I have a whole podcast background and everything that I wanted to set up, but then Jake died, so, like, everything got wrecked,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
nothing's gotten done. Oh, well, fuck it. But, yeah, I think so much of what you're saying speaks to our heart as women and as mothers and humans. We just wanna be good at this, like, you know?
It's okay to get angry. I get triggered as fuck right now. He just has like I've told you in the last one, he huffs and puffs and I'm immediately like, what did I do? What the fuck happened? Like
Mhm.
or it, I will feel like that he can just look at me in a certain way and I'm like, I immediately get insecure and I'm like, what's going on? Or it's he just has to say a phrase and I'm like, fuck you. And then
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like
but you know what I
starting
hear
a
when you say
fight.
that? I'm recognizing God, we are the same person, but what I'm recognizing, so I just wanna share this with you, is that, if you're being hyper vigilant enough to notice the way the man breathes, what's happening is you're looking for a way to push him away to not help you so that you can confirm that narrative that we all have, which is I have the weight of the world on my shoulders and no one helped me carry it, which we have to keep ourselves safe from being vulnerable for asking for the help, for asking for the support. So anytime I can go, fuck it. I'll just do it myself, cause I mean, the motherfucker could fart and I'd be like, "Oh, so you didn't wanna help. Okay, okay." Anytime I get the chance to push him away and not let him help me to confirm my own little narrative that nobody's cares about me and nobody's gonna help, that's all shit. Like, yeah, I can see why I felt that way at a certain point in childhood, but, like, I learned how to cope with that as a safety measure so that I don't have to ask for help.
Yeah.
I don't because there was a time in my life when asking for support wasn't safe, when saying how I felt wasn't safe. So I learned it's not safe to share, it's not safe to get support. And so for the rest of my fucking life, I have done everything I can to push everyone away, whether it is, oh, I can't, talk about my grief to people because they're, uncomfortable. Well, who said that? People haven't
Wasn't be
given me
fucking
any
uncomfortable.
indication that they're uncomfortable. This is just me pushing people away so that I can continue to believe nobody wants to show up for me. I can push him away when he's trying to help by being like, he's not doing it right. He doesn't care enough to do it the way I want him to, blah, blah, blah. All these things. I do this with my kids too. Oh,
Yeah.
I am not saying weaponized incompetence is not a thing because it is, but I think we overuse labels like that and when it comes to our spouses and our children because it keeps us safe, because it's a way we don't have to be vulnerable and go, "Oh, well, I really prefer for it to be done this way. I can I show you how I like it done?" That's scary to say to people, and we're not willing to stop and admit that. Like, I've actually had people really respond kinda crazy to me using the word safe and unsafe when we're talking about how we feel in a situation, and I'm like, "There's nothing your nervous system is either safe to
Safe or
exist or in danger and trying to protect you from danger, so, like,
fight
those are the
flight.
words."
Yeah, it's a fight or flight mode. And, I also had the biggest issue of not having a voice. Especially while growing
Mhm.
up, nobody would listen to me or say with like even as in like teenage and high school, even young adult. Everybody would be talking and then I would start talking and, join in on the conversation and immediately be cut off. And I'm sitting there going, and nobody would notice that I was trying to talk. And then I would try to join in again and be cut off again. And that became such a big problem all up until just a few years ago. And I just let it happen. It's like, okay, well, whatever I had to say wasn't important enough. I'm not important enough to
Yeah, you
even be here.
internalized it. Yeah, like,
I
"Oh,
did.
I'm not worthy
And,
to speak."
that comes from with my story. I, I'm just now starting to be a little bit more open and out. I'm like, I'm open about it if somebody asks, but if there's not, no questions are asked about it, I don't really talk about it. And, unless I feel safe enough or the conversation comes up. I also had a tendency of shutting down, so if something just slightly critical comes out, I immediately go shut down. I'm completely wrong. I did everything wrong. You know,
I'm in
everything
trouble.
I know is not valid. And oh,
Mhm.
living that way is hard. And is then hard is not even the right word for it. And like I said, I'm still learning to have my voice. I'm still learning to speak out and learn how to explain my feelings because sometimes I'm starting to explain it and somebody will take over and explain it for me. And it's like, well, kind of, I guess I'm just going to agree because I don't know how to put it into words. And that's how it goes for me. And because I never could find the words to put these emotions into because I'm still learning each and every single one of these wild ass emotions I've never fucking felt before. And like you said,
Mhm. Yeah, because you probably
I
had a lot
found
of the same thing of, like, just anger. You knew anger and you knew sad, and that was about it.
yeah, exactly. I knew that I could get so pissed that I'm crying, but what else is entailing in that anger? What else
Yes.
am I feeling while I'm angry? Because that's not the only emotion that's there. Why am I feeling this sad? What other emotions are tied in with my
Mhm.
sadness? Is it the grief? Is it, because and another thing I want to bring out off topic, postpartum, you do grieve. You are correct. You do grieve because you grieve the life that you had before you got pregnant and had this baby. You grieve
Yeah.
your body and the things that your body is going through. You're grieving your mental state because your mental state's going wild. I sat here and go, how do mothers balance working, taking care of the child, cleaning the house, doing the laundry, like I'm trying to figure out how to balance my podcast and my baby. I'm not even worried about everything else right now.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's hard.
other people can fucking cook. So I buy cheap shit so people can just throw something in the air fryer and call it a day, okay?
Bitch, I love the air fryer. Don't you talk shit about the air fryer.
I love the air fryer too because it
I
makes
love
my life so simple.
I love it.
It's better than being microwaved. And so,
It's
but
crunchy, and that's
that,
my favorite texture.
but learning that grief isn't just about a loss of a human or a loved one. Grief, you can grieve over anything and everything.
And you should.
You should, and
I
you should let
I
yourself
heard
deal with
a
it.
phrase one time that said, "Honor the grief in transitions." And I was like, "Thank you so much." Wherever it was like an infographic on Instagram years ago, and I was like, "You're so fucking right." Because every transition, there is grief, whether it's changing of a job, having a baby, getting married, getting divorced, moving out of your parents' homes, moving out of a home that you lived in for a couple of years. Any
Mhm.
transition that you go through life, there will come grief with that, and you have to honor it. You have to look and say, have I acknowledged all of the loss in my life enough to for this loss to not overwhelm me? Because that was a big one for me. I'm gonna remind you that I recommended that book, The Finding Peace Workbook, and whenever I went through the wounding, um, going through my loss wound was so important because I was able to see, like, because I'd had these really major losses in life of, like, my parents dying, but even before that, moving from, their home back to grandma, back to parents, back to grandma, and so many transitions. So those were things I had acknowledged. But losing all of my childhood belongings over and over and over, and special things from my parents, like different things like that. Like I had never sat and grieved, just like felt it for a minute, because anytime it would come up, I'd be like, ooh, and move on. That's what I was really good at doing, and still sometimes find myself being like, ooh, no, I don't want to feel that. But yes, there is grief in all transitions and you have to honor it. And I just think that's part of the postpartum experience that we're not talking about enough, is that it is a transition and it is normal and okay to go, I kind of fucking miss when I could have 5 fucking minutes with my husband without some crying ass kid. That's okay. You can hold two perspectives at once. I think that's so much of what's wrong with the society, is that we view everything without nuance or context. You can have two very full perspectives about something at the
Mhm.
exact same time and honor both of them. You can love the shit out of this kid, be so grateful for this kid, all of the things, and then still be like, this bitch, if she wakes up one more time at night. I mean, I had a grandma who was so critical of me that anytime I would complain about motherhood, she'd basically be like, well, they could die. So, be careful what you complain about. And I'd be like, God damn, girl, I gotta worry about my kid dying because, like, I had a thought that this was kind of shitty today.
Mhm.
Like, he had a fucking tantrum in Walmart. Like, it was awful. What the fuck? And that's shit that's still there all the time.
Yep.
It's her voice in my head all the time. Feeling like my thoughts are what made my kid die. Like that's not fair to anyone. And
Mm.
and we can hold two perspectives at once. So I do think that's a really important part to talk about.
It really is because and when you give birth, you're immediately hit with shame. It doesn't matter. You immediately shame yourself because you don't know if you're doing it right because those newborns, they cry. I got very lucky. My newborn did not cry very much. She slept her ass off.
That's how my
And
first one worked too.
she was perfect. What you would want for a newborn. She slept on her own, all of it. But I still had shame because I had to bottle feed my baby. I wasn't
Yeah.
producing enough milk. You're gonna find something to shame
There's
yourself
oh,
about when
yeah,
you're
if you haven't learned how to deal with all of your, again, postpartum highlights everything that was already there. So
everything
if
you've
you
been
haven't
through.
dealt with your internalized shame, then yeah, that's gonna come rearing its ugly head. Like it's gonna be bad because first of all, all the things we've already talked about, the separation from your body, you've gone through this major trauma. So if you're not actively working to connect with your body and to express gratitude for it, let it know it's doing a great job. If that's not like an active focus, you're separating automatically. So what are you going to do? You're going to be up in those shame thoughts. And the shame is just the way we protect ourselves from feeling. It's all those, that's another part of that book, was it helped me dismantle the shame by hearing each little individual voice that was telling me I was a piece of shit in some way or another. Or that, maybe you are a piece of shit, but everyone else is really the problem. And so, you wouldn't be such a piece of shit if they weren't such pieces of shit. I was real good at that. I am very good at being like, but
Yeah.
really, it's your fault. So, but all of those things are going to be just amplified when you're going through something that constantly puts that shit right at the forefront. Because guess what? You aren't going to do everything right. You're not always going to know what to do. There's no perfect to any of this shit. Not to being a human, not to being a mom, not to being a dad, not to being a sibling, not to being a child, any of it. None of us are going to do any of it perfectly. And the faster we all get to the place where we can just embrace our humanity and see, like, I want to highlight this. I have no doubt that every part of this experience and you sharing it is helping somebody else. They're going to say some of this shit out loud now. And when we can get it out, the shame
Mhm.
dies. When you feel safe enough to just get it out of your head and hear yourself and be like, the fuck? Because it's
Yep.
different when you're sitting there like, I'm such a piece of shit internally. And then you say out loud, man, I'm such a piece of shit because I wasn't producing enough milk. I'm not a fucking piece of shit for that. My fucking body just did that. Who cares? Like what, like when you hear it, and then also just the power. It releases the power of all of those thoughts when they're no longer thoughts and you can get it out. So my point in this though is that all these things that we become ashamed about really are our magic. That's where all the fucking power lies, because when you learn how to transmute that and alchemize it and become a person who says, "Yeah, it kind of sucks," and "Hey, this is how I'm dealing with it."
Mhm.
That's the medicine for the world right there.
One thing that I definitely want to say is that I'm still in postpartum. I'm not even full 14 weeks yet. And the one thing that I have to do is I have to allow myself 5 minutes. I have to take care of myself in order to take care of that baby. That
Yep,
baby is all that matters. My husband that can't cook himself food, that's on him. That's not on me. He's a grown ass man. That baby needs me.
right.
I have to take care of myself. And so that means handing the baby over and giving yourself that 5 minutes, whether you're going out to read a book for 5 minutes, whether you're just going to step outside and if you're a cigarette smoker or smoke a little bit of cannabis or
Whatever it is. Yep.
whatever you need to do, just give yourself that 5 minutes, take a bath, give it to yourself. Allow yourself to sit in your emotions and just feel them because you're not allowing yourself to feel them. You need to feel them. That was the first thing I did a couple days ago is I let myself, that happened to me Saturday actually. I sat in my feelings and just allowed myself to feel them for the first time. And I wrote them down. I did her name was Leslie Drafted. I did her little her shift thing and that allowed me to sit in my emotions. I did breath work and and first time I ever done breath work. I've never really done the breath work thing.
It works, right?
And it helped. And then later that night, what happened? My nervous system was like, guess what? You're overloaded. You're feeling it all over again. But that showed that that's how much work I need. I may be a new mom. I may have thought I've done a lot of work, and I have done a lot of work to heal, but that means I still have more I need to do, and it's okay. As long as I'm
Mhm.
willing to put in the work, I'm good. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to be getting through it, and it's never ending. It will never.
Right. Well, and what you're highlighting too is that, like, I consider myself healed. Like, I no longer say I'm on a healing journey because I understand, I have all the awareness now.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean I'm never gonna need the tools again. I
exactly.
have to use the tools, or that sitting in the feelings for 5 minutes doesn't mean that 24 hours later or 24 minutes later, it's not gonna come back, but it's about addressing it every time and
Mhm.
getting out of autopilot to where we stop just dismissing everything. I'm finding myself doing that. I had a reaction the other day where, um, I was on Facebook or I was just laying there thinking about Jake. I don't remember what it was, but I had a full body zap. Like, I felt I was in my body all of a sudden. It was zapped all of me. And I was like, oh, I've been avoiding. Like, I could just tell the difference between thinking and feeling because I felt it so strongly. And I was like, usually when this happens, because I recognize this is not the first time I have felt this sensation, but I usually go, oh, avoid, and that's okay. I haven't done it to, like, my detriment, but I noticed, like, oh, usually when this happens, I will run a little bit, but right now I'm laying in bed with no external stimuli, and I am very aware of how that felt. And so I sat with the sensations in my body and was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit right now. And that was it. I mean, it wasn't like this major thing, but it was the first time I had really noticed that I was feeling this griefy feeling in my body, and I've been dismissing it. So, when we learn how to do these things and to stop living in autopilot 24/7, still going to happen because that's what our brain does for survival. There we have way too many functions to not do some of them without thinking. But to become more intentional, to live a more present life, a more grounded life where we go, okay, what is where I wanna live where my feet are. That's where, like, I think I stole that from a Thunder player, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I think that's something he says, but I was like, "I love that because that's what I want. I wanna be where my feet are. I don't wanna be off fighting with someone, telling myself what a piece of shit I am or they are." I was really good at calling other people pieces of shit in my mind. Yeah, like, I'm not the problem. But, like, we can live with intentionality, and I think that's really what this whole thing is about, is just figuring out how to be present in our bodies, not in our brain. And in our bodies, I'm saying this for the audience because I used to really not understand this, really does mean what is happening in my fucking body right now. And like I've been hyper aware of this gas pain that I've had for the last couple days, because whenever I ovulate, I just go through this extreme GI distress. But it's stuff that like I wouldn't have noticed a year ago because I was just off in la la land and I didn't notice how bad my neck and back hurt all the time because I was tense from overthinking all the time. Now I notice, and that's what it means. Notice your body. What is it doing? What is it? It has its own language and it's trying to guide you.
Well, it really is. And that's something I'm still learning it too. And the one thing that I keep being told, I was told by this from a nurse and my mom and a couple other people is whenever and this goes back to the mom and postpartum is whenever you're telling yourself that, asking yourself if you're a bad mom, you're not. That means
Yeah.
you're a good mom. And when you stop asking yourself that, that's what kind of when you want to kind of question it, because
Yeah.
because that shows you're worried that
Well, ask
you're
the boomers, Giselle. They didn't do a goddamn thing wrong, okay? You're it's all you. They're not the problem, and that's how you
that
know.
is true. That is true. And
The
like
boomers weren't the problem at all, honey. So that's how I know the difference between me and them. Look at the elder Gen X who haven't healed. They're not the problem. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. They didn't do a damn thing wrong. We're just too fucking sensitive.
oh my God, I'm so tired of that. That was something I was told my entire life. You're just too
Me
sensitive.
too.
You're overly sensitive.
Mhm.
And it's like, you
Mhm.
know what? I don't give a
Am I
fuck.
too
I'm going
sensitive
to
or are
be
you being a
sensitive.
bitch? Hmm.
No, now I'm
Yeah,
just like,
I've
I'm
really
going to
come to
be
that too. I'm like,
sensitive.
guess what? I am sensitive. I am. And I'm sensitive to energies. I'm sensitive to mood shifts. I'm
Hmm.
sensitive to everything. And I'm open to that now. Whereas before I was like, yeah, I am too sensitive. I care too much. No, honey, the natural byproduct of someone fucking making fun of you that's supposed to love you and calling it teasing is for it to hurt your feelings.
Yep.
I'm not too
100%.
sensitive. You're just a bitch. Thanks.
Yeah, just because you can't live in your own emotions doesn't mean I can't live in mine. And that
Exactly.
I have allowed that to turn me into a bitch. So any time somebody ever tells me that, it's like, okay, bitch mode's on. I'm bitch in your
It's
face.
a huge trigger for me.
And
Huge. When someone calls me too sensitive, I'm like, "Okay, them's fighting words. We're gonna fight." So, I've
exactly.
never
Yeah.
been a physical fighter. I'm more of like a verbal, like, altercation kinda gal, but yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'll go right off if you call me too sensitive. But, now though, like, I've been working on, like, different triggers like that, and just today I was working through one because of a conversation I was having, and I was like, "Okay, why did you take that personally?" First of all, they didn't say I was too sensitive, but they were saying something that made me feel like that. And so I was like, "Why did you take that personally? What are you actually hearing this person say?" And I was like, "They're saying a lot about their inner world. What do you know to be true about people who have this as a belief?" And so I just came back with, "Well, this is what I'm hearing about you when you say that." And it actually ended up being a beautiful conversation, but I was real triggered by it at first. Like I had to take a little bit to process it because I was like, I'm so fucking mad. But then I was like, not about me. Not about me. And actually, I'm right and you're wrong. So,
I definitely will say that my triggers are really heightened. My
oh,
mom,
yeah.
she with what she's going through some really high personal stuff right now, and she gets angry. And because I grew up with a very angry mom who yelled at me all the time for shit that I didn't do, it triggered me. And
Mhm.
I feel I start to shut down, and I'm like, I have to walk away because I don't want to be around that energy. I She's got a powerful energy. She is my mom. We're
She do.
highly
She do.
connected. And so I feel it, and I immediately have to walk away from it because it's like I can't be around that. And angry energy is something I don't like to be around. Because I grew up in
I
a
am
very
very afraid
angry
of it.
atmosphere. I grew up in a very angry atmosphere. My it's so Up until I was about 14, 15 years old. So it was
Yeah.
something that I don't like to be around. And even after being 14, 15, I've been around angry, you know, energies, and I just nope, I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's a trigger for me, and I it
Yep.
causes me to basically shrink back down and going back into me and not be out there like I'm supposed to be. And and so that was something that, and I'm trying to talk to her because she's in her emotions. Now she's not sensitive, but she's in her emotions, and telling her that, hey mom, you're triggering me. It was triggering her and making her, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be angry. Mom, you're allowed to feel what you're feeling. I'm just letting you know, like, hey, I gotta step away for a second. I gotta collect myself because I I'm going to spiral if I don't collect myself, and I do not want to collect.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
that's something that, learning to use your voice while you're triggered with those people is a learning it's a learning thing too. It's nothing but
Yes.
a learning lesson, and sometimes you're tired of learning. You know, just
Baby,
be.
yes. Yes. But this is where spirituality really helps me, where I go, "All right, I fucking chose this shit, and this is the experience that I chose for myself and the lessons I, as a soul, wanted to learn. And so, damn it, I'm going to learn it because I don't want to have to repeat this shit because I didn't get it right in this life. I'm going to go through this life and I'm going to fucking be so proud of myself. And like, I've said this so many times, but I'm seriously I just, it helps me so much just to picture my highest self and all of my little spirit team being like, good job, girl. You did it. You did it. You got what you wanted to. And I don't know why I said I would like a really crazy existence that I'm constantly having to fucking go through something and whatever. But I also think I did that because I am called to a very big purpose in this life, and that those things aren't just so that I grow and evolve as a soul, like, which, like, yes, I do, but it's so that I can help others grow and evolve as a soul too. And so that really helps me. It helps me way more than whenever I was religious and was like, God decided for me that this is my soul's purpose versus like, no, before I came to this earth as a human, my soul said, I want to learn these lessons. That helps me so much. Not shitting on anyone else's belief system, but I'm
Yeah.
saying for me personally, it helps me so fucking much because I chose this. And because before that's where I kind of listen, if I'm just being really honest, that's when I kind of got to, well, like, kind of like fuck God, because I'm done. I'm done with all this. But no one human deserves all this shit. And then, so I was like, man, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. And I kind of believed in nothing for a while. And then I got into astrology and started to feel like it was a blueprint and understand. And I was like, oh shit. And then I said, oh, I do have control. And I do. I have free will. I can exercise that at any time in this life. I could fucking die if I wanted to, but I want to live here and I fucking want I fucking want to achieve my purpose. I don't always want to have to go through the shit that I'm going through, but it does help me to be like I'm in control here. I mean, and again, I'm choosing to live. I'm and not just live. I know how much I deserve a full life of joy and love, and I'm going to give that to
Mhm.
myself hell or high water.
Well, and when it comes, I'm not a religious person. I very much have been grew up to where I do not like it. I'm not a person who wants to be in it. And but I do believe in a higher power, and I've always been that way.
Well, okay, before we go, remind people where they can find you. You have a podcast, Looking Through the
I
Glass.
do. I have a podcast with my mom. It's Looking Through the Glass. We are on multiple platforms, Spotify, YouTube, all of that. If anybody ever wants to come on, you can always reach us on 12 look in through THRU 34 the glass at gmail.com. Ha, I did it this time. Um, always screw it up. And we honestly we welcome people onto our show who want to speak their stories. We kind of do the same thing Melissa does here. We just talk, conversate. We like to let I like to let people know that my baby will pop in and be a part of the show every once in a while. But no, and you can also find me on TikTok and Facebook as well. You can find me by my actual name on Facebook. We do have a Look Into the Glass Facebook, and we do have a TikTok, and I have a TikTok.
Man, that's a lot. I will make sure that I put all of that in the show notes, and I will, link the episode that I did with you and your mom, and your mom's gonna come on soon, and I asked her to be a part of a little project I'm starting, so I'm excited for that.
Oh,
She said
cool.
yes, so I was like, "Oh, hell yeah." So,
That's
alright,
exciting.
well, I love you. I'm so glad that you came on today. Definitely wanna have you back, have your mom back, do all the things, and I just appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm more than happy to come back.
Yay!
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.